Those who were usually jealous of Yun Chujio suddenly began to make a ruckus. "Leader, we have also seen it. It was this Leng Xiaojiao who kicked Lin Gang and Zhao Chong to the front of the Iron Pincer's Blue Scorpion. She is the murderer. Thus, leader, you must punish the murderer severely. Otherwise, the souls of the two brothers in heaven will not rest in peace. Yes, leader, you must deal with them impartially. Otherwise, we will be disappointed." Zhao Zijing waited until the crowd's discussion quieted down before he snorted coldly. "Leng Xiaojiao, with so many witnesses, what else do you have to say?" Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. "I didn't expect so many people to have a problem with their eyes. When they see things, they can even pinch the head and cut the tail. How amazing! Those two people wanted to secretly harm me, but they were too stupid. They used too much strength and didn't kill me. Instead, they threw themselves in front of an Iron Pincer Blue Scorpion and lost their lives. What does this have to do with me? Moreover, I'm a trash of the 6th layer of the spiritual profound realm. Even if I wanted to kill them, I couldn't kill them. You, and you, since you said that I killed those two people, can you tell me in detail how a trash like me kicked them? Also, I can swear to the heavens that if I tell a lie, I will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. Do you dare?" The bearded man and the rest of the people opened their mouths and didn't say a word. They were guilty, so how could they dare to swear? Zhao Zijing's heart sank when he saw this. He was afraid that what Leng Xiaojiao said was true. He felt embarrassed. Just when he didn't know how to go down the stairs, the bearded man said loudly, "Leng Xiaojiao, even if you didn't do what Lin Gang and Zhao Chong did, you didn't use any of the explosive talismans you had when you fought with the Iron Pincer's Blue Scorpion. You are too selfish to travel with us. Alliance leader, I request that Leng Xiaojiao and her brother be kicked out of our team. If you don't agree, then I, Lu Zhuang, will leave the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance and return to Mingsha City. Yes. President, I agree with Lu Zhuang. If we don't expel Leng Xiaojiao and the others, we will leave the alliance. And me. And me." Yun Chujio looked at the people who spoke coldly. Most of them were from the 3rd team, and a small number of them were from the 2nd team. Most of them were caused by the red-eyed disease. Wasn't it just because she got the job of the 1st team's cook's army? Wasn't it just because she had 2 thick piles of talismans in her hands? This red-eyed criminal really made people laugh. However, it was also true that people were always jealous of people who were at the same level as them. When this person was much higher than them and they could not look up to him, they were not jealous, because they no longer had the courage to be jealous. Leng Kuei snorted coldly. "What you guys said is really nice. I didn't see you guys use any talismans or spiritual weapons against the enemy. My sister is only at the 6th layer of the Lingxian realm. What's wrong with keeping talismans to protect her life?" Those people were embarrassed by Leng Kuei's words. However, since they had already fallen out with each other, it was impossible for them to give up halfway. Therefore, they thickened their skin and ignored Leng Kuei's words. They continued to make a racket to force Zhao Zijing to kick Yun Chujio and Leng Kuei out of the team. The people from the 1st and 2nd teams still didn't say anything. Instead, Feng Ji came out to plead for mercy. Alliance leader, Leng Xiaojiao kept the talismans to protect her life because her spiritual power is low. This extreme West Sands Sea is extremely dangerous. If we chase them out, I'm afraid that they will be doomed. Please think twice. Zhao Zijing pondered for a moment, and then said with a troubled look, "Manager Feng, the alliance of non-affiliates is not my decision. It depends on everyone's opinion. Everyone, the Leng siblings did not commit any unforgivable mistake. Leng Xiaojia's spiritual power is low, so it's inevitable that she is timid. It makes sense that she did not participate in the battle. Let's forget about this matter." Feng Ji said to the bearded man and the others. The bearded man snorted coldly. "Steward Feng, you arranged the good jobs for the Leng siblings, and now you're speaking up for them. Could it be that you've really accepted their benefits?" The people around them also jeered. "That's right. So we elected you as the steward because you're honest. I didn't expect you to pull such a trick behind our backs." We apply for the dismissal of him. Right, dismiss him. Well, choose another manager. Since this Feng Ji is helping Leng Xiaojiao so much, well, expel him together. Feng Ji never expected that he would be ostracized just because he was pleading for leniency in the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance. Apart from shock, there was also a hint of grief and indignation on his face. Feng Ji looked at Zhao Zijing, hoping that he would say something fair. However, he didn't expect Zhao Zijing to remain silent. Zhao Zijing had long been dissatisfied with Feng Ji, who always did things by the book. Moreover, Feng Ji was in charge of the public finances of the alliance, so Zhao Zijing, the alliance leader, couldn't take any advantage. Therefore, Zhao Zijing had long wanted to find a reason to kick Feng Ji out. Now was a great opportunity, so he naturally wouldn't let it go. Since Zhao Zijing did not speak, the bearded man and the others became even more noisy. Moreover, some of the people in the first team were eyeing Feng Ji's position covetously. They also added fuel to the fire. For a moment, they were all shouting to expel Feng Ji. It was even louder than Yun Chujia's voice. Feng Ji's body was slightly trembling. Could I, Feng Ji, have always been conscientious and conscientious. I never had the slightest bit of selfishness. I did not expect to end up like this. Since you insist on this, I have nothing to say. You can choose one person. After I hand over the spirit stones to him, I will take the initiative to leave. There is no need for you to expel me. Hearing Feng Ji's words, Zhao Zijing sighed. Steward Feng, after you have finished handing over the spirit stones, there is no need for you to leave the Loose Cultivator Alliance. I will naturally protect you. Although Feng Ji was honest, it did not mean that he was a fool. He smiled bitterly. There is no need. I still won't be an eyesore. Regarding Feng Ji's matter, only a few people showed a pained expression. Most of them were numb, while a few others showed a happy expression. After Feng Ji handed over the spirit stones, he left the team with a sorrowful expression. Yun Chujiao looked at Zhao Zijing with a faint smile and said, Alliance Leader Zhao, since even Manager Feng has been expelled, I believe that we siblings will not be able to stay. Since that's the case, I'll take my leave. However, if you have anything to ask of us, think about what you've done today. Don't be so thick-skinned as to beg us. The bearded man and the others laughed loudly. Is this little girl crazy? We beg her? Even if we beg her, she'll be begging us on her knees. This extreme western desert sees demonic beasts run amok. Perhaps they'll lose their lives as soon as they leave the team. That's right. She really overestimates herself. Even if we are really in danger, can she, a trash of the 6th layer of the spiritual profound realm, help us? Hurry up and leave. Hurry up and leave. Don't talk crazy here. If it weren't for Chief Xiao's benevolence, I would have killed all of you long ago. After Yun Chujiao and Leng Kui walked for a distance, they saw the dazed Feng Ji. Uncle Feng. Yun Chujiao jogged to catch up with Feng Ji. Seeing that it was them, Feng Ji nodded as a greeting. Uncle Feng, I'm really sorry. If it weren't for us brother and sister, you wouldn't have been chased out. Yun Chujiao said apologetically. Feng Ji shook his head. I'm in charge of the spirit stones in the Loose Cultivator Alliance. There are people who have long disliked me. Even if it wasn't for you guys, they would have found a reason to chase me out sooner or later. It's because I thought it was too simple. I thought that since these people had come to fight against the Yen clan, they wouldn't have any selfish motives under the common enemy. I didn't expect that even at this time, some people still had their own plans. Yun Chujiao curled the corners of her lips. Uncle Feng's thoughts are very thorough. The human heart is the most difficult thing to predict, especially since the Loose Cultivator Alliance was originally formed by piecing it together. Everyone has their own little Jiujio, so it's inevitable that there will be some dirty matters. However, it's just right for us to separate from them. Don't worry, with me around, we will definitely be able to safely arrive at the vast desert. Feng Ji nodded, but he smiled bitterly in his heart. This little girl's tone wasn't small. How could a little girl at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm protect us? Forget it. Although his spiritual power wasn't particularly high, he was still stronger than the two of them. When there was danger, he would just take care of them. Little Jiao, well, follow behind the loose cultivator alliance. This way, if we're attacked by demonic beasts, we'll have less trouble because they're in front, Feng Ji said after thinking for a moment. Uncle Feng, I think it's better for us to walk in front. Those people in the alliance are all black-hearted. If we follow behind them, they might deliberately drive the demonic beasts to our side, Yun Chujio said with a cold smile. Is it necessary? Feng Ji said with some hesitation. Yun Chujio's eyes flickered with coldness. Uncle Feng, you're too kind. They were able to make us come out in full force just for the sake of their face. If we survive to the desert, they will be worried that we will destroy their image in front of the Alliance army. Moreover, Uncle, you have always been in charge of the spirit stones of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. If some people want to do something to the accounts, they will definitely kill you to silence you. They won't attack openly due to their pride, but with the help of the demonic beasts, it's simply flawless. Therefore, it's better for us to walk in front of them. Feng Ji looked at Yun Chujio with a face full of shock. He had always thought that she was just a naive and romantic little girl. He didn't expect her mind to be so clear. Yes, he was still thinking too simply. How could those people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance just expel them? They would definitely use the demonic beasts to kill them. The more Feng Ji thought about it, the more he felt that what Yun Chujio said made sense. Fine beads of sweat started to drip out from his forehead. He sighed. The human heart is even scarier than the demonic beasts. Alright, let's walk in front of them. I would rather be eaten by the demonic beasts than be killed by my original companions. Lung Kuei did not say anything at the side. His heart felt like it was turning upside down. Even though he was a disciple of the murderous origin sect, everything had been smooth sailing for him. Moreover, the disciples of the murderous origin sect had always flattered him. He did not know that people's hearts were so complicated. At this moment, Lung Kuei seemed to have some understanding and relief towards Yun Chujio's evil schemes. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. When the people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance saw that Yun Chujio and the other two had actually walked in front of them, all of them sneered. These three people were really brainless. If they had followed behind the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, they would have suffered less. After all, they could eliminate most of the demonic beasts in front and even scare them away. However, now that they were walking in front, they were just waiting to be fed to the demonic beasts. Zhao Zijing's eyes flickered a few times. He originally wanted to find an opportunity to get rid of these three people, but he didn't expect that they would seek their own death and walk in front of the Loose Cultivator Alliance. That would save them a lot of trouble. Yun Chujio and the other two walked for a while and found a sand dune. The three of them decided to camp here at night. Brother, Uncle Feng, your spiritual power is higher than mine, so I'll leave the night shift to you. I'm young. If I don't sleep well, it will affect my growth, He Xinjiao said with a smile. Feng Ji, Lung Kuei. Although the lifespan of cultivators on the immortal essence continent was at least a few hundred years, at most a few thousand years, Yun Chujio was a real little girl on the immortal essence continent. However, it was a bit shameless to say that it would affect their growth. The corners of Feng Ji and Lung Kuei's eyes twitched, but they didn't say anything. They didn't want a little girl like her to be on night shift. They thought that the night wouldn't be peaceful. They didn't expect nothing to happen. A certain Jiao stretched her body and walked out of the universal tent when the sky was bright. Uncle Feng, brother, come and have breakfast. A certain Jiao took out a small square table and placed a sumptuous breakfast on it. Feng Ji was stunned. These things were much better than what they usually ate. It was probably bought by the little girl herself. As for why she hadn't taken it out before, it was probably because she was afraid of arousing the envy of others. How could he know that a certain Jiao actually felt that since there was free food from the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance, why would she waste her own things? After the three of them finished their breakfast, they continued to walk forward. At noon, it was the hottest time in the extreme West Desert Sea. Feng Ji and Lung Kuei kept drinking water to wipe their sweat. A certain Jiao was the only one jumping around in front, feeling very uncomfortable. Feng Ji clicked his tongue in wonder. This little girl's physique was really special. She was actually so resistant to heat. While Yun Chujio was jumping around happily, she noticed several pairs of deep blue eyes flickering with a cold light in the distance, and they were constantly approaching. Yun Chujio's heart jumped. It must be the 43rd level Sand Sea Blood Wolf. The Sand Sea Blood Wolf was different from other demon wolves. They didn't like to move at night. Instead, they liked to hunt at noon when it was the hottest time. This was because the sun was exploding. The prey's body lacked water and their movements were slow. It was the weakest time for them to hunt successfully. Feng Ji also noticed these Sand Sea Blood Wolves. His heart immediately sank. It's the Sand Sea Blood Wolves. And there are at least dozens of them in this group. Let's run quickly. Uncle Feng, where can we run to? If we run to the left and right, how can we escape these Sand Sea Blood Wolves? If we turn around and run, those people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance will definitely say that we don't have good intentions. At that time, they will directly kill us. Although Yun Chujio said that there was no way out, the expression on her face was not the same at all. Instead, it was as if she was talking about what to eat today. Feng Ji was anxious and did not pay attention to this. He followed Yun Chujio's words and said, "You are right. What should we do? Should we just wait for death here?" Yun Chujio spread her hands. "That's all we can do. Anyway, we'll die sooner or later. Why are we wasting our energy running?" As he spoke, he sat on the ground and jumped up from the burning sand. "Oh my God, it's burning me to death." Leng Kuei and Feng Ji were speechless. At this time, this guy was still fooling around. However, what she said made sense. Since they couldn't escape anyway, they might as well stay still and fight for a chance of survival. While the two of them were thinking, they saw Yun Chujio take out a large piece of white cloth from her storage ring. Then, she made 8 flags out of the white cloth and placed them around the 3 of them. It was like a formation. Leng Kuei and Feng Ji were baffled. What was wrong with this little girl? When the wolf pack comes later, don't talk. Leave it to me. Before Leng Kuei and Feng Ji could ask further, the wolf pack had already arrived in front of the 3 of them. Dozens of pairs of deep blue eyes stared at Yun Chujio and the other 2. Saliva dripped from the corners of their mouths. However, there was hesitation in their eyes. What kind of formation was this? Normally, humans would turn around and run when they saw them. Why didn't these 3 humans run? Was this formation very powerful? Were they waiting for them to fall into their trap? Feng Ji and Leng Kuei's palms were sweaty. However, when they remembered what Yun Chujio said just now, they just stared at the wolf pack with vigilance and didn't say anything. Yun Chujio smiled and waved at the largest Sand Sea Blood Wolf. "Little dog, come, come." Feng Ji stumbled and almost sat on the ground. This little girl couldn't tell if she was a wolf or a dog, right? How was she a dog? Besides, are you stupid? Why did you let her come? Did she eat you? Leng Kuei knew that Yun Chujio was full of bad ideas, but he didn't understand what was in Yun Chujio's gourd. The 2 of them were confused, but the Wolf King was even more confused. Recently, humans often passed by its territory, but it had never encountered such a situation. This little girl must be planning something bad. She must have set a trap, and once it walked over, it would suffer. It was not a stupid wolf, it would not be fooled. Therefore, the Wolf King only roared a few times, but did not move half a step forward. When the other Sand Sea Blood Wolves saw that their leader did not dare to act rashly, they naturally did not dare to move either. For a moment, both sides were in a stalemate. Feng Ji and Leng Kuei felt that their brains were not enough. Were these Sand Sea Blood Wolves idiots? The little girl only said a few words with a smile, but they actually did not dare to move? How was this possible? "Little dog, I didn't expect you to be so smart. You are much smarter than the iron pincer blue scorpions we met before." But that's also true. Those scorpions are just insects. How can they compare to your wolf clan? Yun Chujio clicked her tongue and said in surprise. The Wolf King felt a sense of pride when it heard Yun Chujio say this. That was because it was the Wolf King that had experienced hundreds of battles. How could those lousy scorpions compare? Even though those broken scorpions were of a higher level than them, they did not dare to provoke them. It saw clearly what this little girl was doing. Wasn't this a trap commonly used by humans? Did she really think that it was a stupid wolf? She really looked down on wolves. Alright, since you guys did not fall for it, then I have nothing to say. You guys can leave. The three of us will leave this place as well. We will pretend that we have never met before. Yun Chujio waved her hand casually. She indicated that they could leave. Feng Ji and Lung Kuei's throats were in their throats. They thought to themselves, even though the wolf pack had been tricked temporarily, would they really give up on the meat that was right in front of them? A trace of treachery flashed across the Wolf King's eyes. It howled a few times and the wolf pack left under its lead. Just as Feng Ji and Lung Kuei were about to escape, they were stopped by Yun Chujio with her eyes. Then, she sighed and said, "Sigh, I haven't eaten wolf meat for a long time. I thought I could get a few to try, but I didn't expect these Sans Sea blood wolves to be so smart. What a pity." Feng Ji and Lung Kuei were shocked to find that after Yun Chujio said that, the wolves suddenly sped up their escape and soon disappeared. The two of them felt that their worldview had been greatly impacted. The 8 flags made of broken white cloth scared the wolf pack away. How was this possible? Were those Sans Sea blood wolves idiots? Yun Chujio put the 8 flags into her storage ring and said in a low voice, "What are you still standing there for? Why aren't you running?" Feng Ji and Lung Kuei finally reacted and ran with Yun Chujio. The two of them originally thought that Yun Chujio would not be able to keep up with their speed, but they did not expect that Yun Chujio had been following behind them neither slowly nor slowly. Even if they had used all their strength, Yun Chujio had still been following behind them, and she did not look like she was struggling at all. How was this possible? She was only at the 6th level of the Ling Shen realm. How could her movement technique be so fast? The three of them ran for a distance before slowing down. Feng Ji asked in puzzlement, "Little girl, were the 8 flags you planted just now really just ordinary white cloth? Did you do anything to them?" Yun Chujio smiled and took out a flag for him to look at. Feng Ji looked left and right but didn't see anything strange. He had to believe this fact. This was the most ordinary white cloth. Yun Chujio saw Feng Ji's puzzled face. She smiled and said, "The Sans Sea blood wolves are the most suspicious. When they see us not running but letting them hunt us, they will definitely think that we have set a trap. Moreover, I also mentioned the iron pincer blue scorpion. The Wolf King will think that this is a trap." Lung Kuei said from the side, "Then what you said about roasting the wolf meat later is to make the Wolf King believe that this is a trap? Well, brother, you're not too stupid. Keep working hard." Hey Shinjio said with a smile. Lung Kuei glared at her. He had thought that this little girl was not so annoying anymore, but now that he looked at her, she was still very annoying. The wolf pack that was fooled by the 8-sided white cloth flag was afraid that Yun Chujio would do something funny again. They ran all the way and happened to come face to face with the Loose Cultivator Alliance. The unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance had a large number of people, so they were naturally not afraid of the dozens of Sans Sea blood wolves. After a round of fighting, the wolf pack was defeated and fled. The bearded man said gloatingly, "These Sans Sea blood wolves came from the front. Lung Xiaojiu and the other 2 must have been eaten by these Sans Sea blood wolves. They really deserve it." The others also echoed. They were just saying that this was retribution and deserved it. A trace of pride flashed across Zhao Zijing's eyes. It was just as well that these 3 people had died. This way, he was not afraid that they would spout nonsense in front of the allied army. The reason why he had come to fight against the Nightmare Clan was to gain a good impression in front of so many mighty figures. He might even be able to join a super sect like the Primordial Killing Sect or the Primordial Chaos Sect. If he was lucky, he might even be able to become an elder. An elder of a super sect was much better than being an itinerant cultivator. Even if they could not join a super sect and were valued by a super family, being a guest elder was not bad. Zhao Zijing looked at the map. They had already walked more than half of the way. In another 10 days or so, they would reach the vast desert. When that time came, it would be time for him to show off his skills. Zhao Zijing suppressed the excitement in his heart and continued to lead the freelance martial artist alliance forward. For 2 consecutive days, the road was very peaceful. Everyone's mood was extremely relaxed. The most dangerous area had already passed. Even if they encountered demonic beasts again, they would not pose any threat to them. At this moment, a series of miserable cries rang out. Everyone was horrified to discover that many black vines had drilled out from the sand beneath their feet. These vines had sharp thorns on them. After piercing through a person's skin, the spiritual energy in the body would quickly drain away. However, these vines were very hard, and even spiritual energy couldn't cut them off easily. Very quickly, more than half of the people were trapped by the vines. Only the first group of cultivators were in a slightly better condition. Firstly, they were nimble and wouldn't be easily entangled by the vines. Secondly, even if they were entangled, they could also break free faster. Just when everyone was in a terrible situation, a large black thing flew over from the distance. Sans sea poisonous bees. It's the sans sea poisonous bees. Quickly put up the spiritual energy barrier. A cultivator shouted. Although the extreme west sans sea forbade flying, the sans sea poisonous bees could fly about 10 feet above the ground. Moreover, they were extremely poisonous. Once they were stung by them, the consequences would be worrisome. The members of the Loose Cultivator Alliance could be said to have suffered from a broken house and continuous rain. Originally, the black vines had already caused them to be in a terrible state. Unexpectedly, now there was actually a group of sans sea poisonous bees. This was simply no way to survive. Unexpectedly, this wasn't the worst. Tens of thousands of red ants crawled out from the ground. They crawled along the black vines onto everyone's bodies. The formic acid secreted by them instantly numbed everyone's entire body. For a moment, there were miserable howls. They felt that they were extremely unlucky. The black vines, sans sea poisonous bees, and these black ants all had their own territories. How could they appear at the same time? Just as everyone was in a mess, they heard someone chuckle. TSK, brother, look at these people. They are really interesting. Are they stupid? Why are they just standing there and letting the poisonous bees sting them? The people from the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance saw that the person who spoke was a beautiful little girl. It was that Leng Xiaojiao. She didn't die? They were shocked and couldn't help but fly into a rage. Interesting. Interesting my ass. Do they want to stand there like idiots? They were clearly bound by the vines, all right? They were clearly paralyzed by the formic acid, all right? The bearded man cursed. Stupid girl, you're courting death. You'll be trapped in a while too. Let's see if you still have the mood to watch a joke. Yun Chujio hugged her shoulders and said with a smile, I'm sorry. These vines, poisonous bees, and red ants don't seem to be interested in me. Maybe it's because I'm too good-looking that they don't have the heart to eat me. Just like the sans sea blood wolves didn't eat me. Being good-looking is also an advantage. Don't you think it's infuriating? Only then did the crowd realize that Ling Xiaojiao was very close to them. However, the black vines, poisonous bees, and red ants didn't attack her. Even Long Kuei and Feng Ji, who were beside her, were safe and sound. At this moment, Hei Xinjiao took out a handful of melon seeds from her storage ring. While munching on the melon seeds, she said, TSKSK, did you do something wicked, so God punished you? Fortunately, the 3 of us left the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. Otherwise, we would have suffered too. Everyone was so angry that they were twitching. What did they mean by doing something immoral? Some people were quick-witted and felt that Yun Chujio probably had some kind of defensive spirit tool on her, so these vines, poisonous bees, and red ants would not attack her. Therefore they all shouted, Little girl, come and save me. I won't let you help me for nothing. That's right, little girl. As long as you save me, I'll give you spirit stones. As long as you give me a price, it'll be fine. Little girl, I expelled you from the Loose Cultivator Alliance because Lu Zhuang instigated it. I didn't say anything at that time. Come and help me, I'll definitely thank you heavily. After Yun Chujio finished eating the melon seeds in her hand, she grabbed another handful and said with a grin, I'm sorry, I can't do anything either. Besides, I'm not a person who's greedy for money. On account of the fact that we've been together for a period of time, I'll convey your wish to resist the Nightmare Clan to the Allied army when we arrive at the 10,000 miles tall Gobi Desert. You can all go in peace. Seeing that Yun Chujio was unmoved, everyone placed the breakthrough point on Feng Ji. Steward Feng, you're the kindest. Hurry up and save us. If we delay any longer, we'll lose our lives. That's right, old Feng. We have a good relationship. Please save us for the sake of our past friendship. Hei Xinjiu had already given Feng Ji some thought work. She had said that if he was not lucky, he would die without a burial place, and if he really died, Zhao Zijing would tell the people of the Alliance army that he had embezzled the Alliance's spiritual stones. He had committed suicide because he was afraid of the consequences. Feng Ji had been brainwashed by Yun Chujio all day long. Now, whenever he saw the people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, he would gnash his teeth in hatred. Why would he save them? Feng Ji snorted coldly. Friendship? When you banished me, you didn't say anything about friendship. Besides, these vines and poisonous insects are not our spiritual pets and spiritual plants. We can't save you either. You should save yourselves. Seeing that Yun Chujio and the other two had no intention of saving them, the people of the Loose Cultivator Alliance turned hostile. They started to curse. However, they soon found that the more they cursed, the more the red ants liked them. They were bitten and screamed in pain. Especially that bearded man. He was directly stung by a desert poisonous bee and died. The crowd finally came to a conclusion in horror. Even if these vines, wasps, and red ants weren't Leng Xiaojio's spiritual pets, they were probably related to her, otherwise, they wouldn't have attacked people selectively. How is this possible? However, now was obviously not the time to find out the reason. Survival was the most important thing. Zhao Zijing said loudly, Leng Xiaojio, although we have some misunderstandings with you, we are all knowledgeable people who are fighting against the nightmare race. Aren't you afraid of being blamed by the people in the world for doing this? President Zhao, you can't just say that. How can a good-for-nothing like me command these little things? Besides, since President Zhao is so righteous, just kill yourself. Maybe these little things will be full after eating you and won't eat anyone else. As the president of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, don't you have the spirit of sacrifice? Hei Xinjiu said with a smile, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. You want to play the moral kidnapping game with me? I'll kill you. Zhao Zijing felt like he was about to be roasted. He said in a threatening tone, Ichi, you're trying to twist the truth. Why would these poisonous creatures retreat just because I committed suicide? If they really retreat just because I committed suicide, why would I, Zhao, be stingy with my life? Yun Chujio curled her lips. Isn't that simple? Why don't you just ask these little things? Come, let me ask you. If President Zhao commits suicide, will you retreat just like that? Everyone was shocked to find that whether it was the sand sea poisonous bees or the red ants, after hearing Yun Chujio's words, they made buzzing and rustling sounds, obviously echoing her words. President Zhao, did you hear that? Haven't you always claimed to be the most selfless and self-sacrificing person? Now that I'm giving you a chance to sacrifice yourself for justice, you should commit suicide. Yun Chujio said with a cold smile. Compared to those truly evil people, hypocrites like Zhao Zijing were even more detestable. They usually looked like righteous gentlemen, but in fact, their thoughts were the dirtiest, and they were even more sinister and ruthless when it came to harming others. How could Zhao Zijing bear to commit suicide? His face flushed red, and then he roared, Everyone, it's very obvious now. These poisonous creatures were raised by this Leng Xiaojio. Let's not hope that she can save us, let's save ourselves. Hearing his words, Yun Chujio laughed crisply. Alliance Chief Zhao's brain isn't that good, right? Not to mention that in a trash at the 6th level of the Ling Xian realm, even the mighty figures of the Han Yuan sect and the Shi Yuan sect wouldn't be able to raise so many spiritual pets, right? In fact, this matter was very simple. Originally, everyone wanted to go to the front line to participate in the war, which was a great thing. However, some people wanted to gain benefits inside, and secretly did dirty things which Tiandao couldn't stand. Therefore, they sent these little things to warn you. Only Zhao Zijing, the main culprit, committed suicide. The crisis will naturally be resolved. Believe it or not, it's up to you. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she took out a small pony from her storage ring and sat on it with a smile as she continued to munch on melon seeds. Zhao Zijing refuted a few words in exasperation. It was nothing more than saying that Yun Chujio was spouting nonsense and that no one should believe her words. However, in order to survive, no one would listen to his explanation. Some people said, Alliance leader Zhao, Leng Xiaojiu is right. Logically speaking, these poisonous creatures shouldn't be gathered together. It's obviously abnormal now. Perhaps it's the punishment of Tiandao. You've always been kind-hearted. Just kill yourself for us. Yes, Alliance leader Zhao, sacrificing one of you to save all of us. Just kill yourself. Yes, we all agree. Alliance leader Zhao, just die in peace. We will definitely remember your great kindness. Zhao's face was livid with anger. He had selectively forgotten how he had used public opinion to force Feng Ji and Yun Chujio. He tried his best to break free from the vines on his body. He had already thought about it. As long as he could successfully break free, he would take Yun Chujio hostage. At that time, these people would change their faces. Unfortunately, those black vines were especially fond of him. Even if he cut off a few of them, there was still a continuous stream of black vines winding around him. Moreover, there were countless red ants crawling on his body. Yun Chujio took out a spirit fruit and took 2 bites. Then she said, I believe that I don't need to say anything more. You guys have seen the true face of this Zhao Zijing, right? It's a waste of food for such a person to live. It's better to die. Following Yun Chujio's words, Zhao Zijing let out a scream. His body was covered with desert poisonous bees, and he died on the spot. At this moment, the people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance were finally certain that even if these poisonous creatures were not raised by this Leng Xiaojiu, they were definitely related to her. Their little lives were now in her hands. If they wanted to live, they could only beg her to let them go. Leng Xiaojiu, no Miss Xiaojiu, we were all deceived by that Zhao Zijing and Lu Zhuang in the past. Now, the culprit is already dead. Hurry up and let us go. Yes, Miss Xiaojiu, we have no enmity with each other. Why do you have to kill us all? As long as you let us go, I will agree to any condition you ask. After eating the spirit fruit, Yun Chujio threw the core behind her and stood up. Let you go? And then let you kill us with enmity? Do you think I am such a stupid person? Don't talk to me about logic. I've never studied before, so I can't understand. I've told you before, when you're in trouble, don't be thick-skinned and beg me. What did you say back then? Now you regret it? It's too late. Feng Ji saw that Zhao Zijing was dead, so he wanted to talk to these people, but when he heard Yun Chujio's words, he immediately swallowed his words. Yes, these people were saying nice things now, so maybe they really let them go. They would turn hostile and kill the 3 of them mercilessly. Miss Little Jiu, no, Great Aunt Little Jiu, we were wrong. We look down on others. Just treat us like farts. Great Aunt Little Jiu, no, Great Aunt Little Jiu, I beg you. I have a mother and children. If you kill me, they won't be able to live. That's right, Great Aunt Little Ninth, as long as you let us go, we'll be at your disposal in the future. Yun Chujio sighed, sigh. All right, I'm the most soft-hearted person. After hearing what you guys said, I really can't bear to hear it. Although these little things aren't raised by me, I'm so good-looking. I should be able to help you guys talk some sense into them. When the people from the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance heard this, they almost vomited blood. Are you soft-hearted? You only agreed to let them go when their lips were almost worn out. If you are soft-hearted, there will be no evil people in this world. Some people secretly made up their minds. No matter what, they had to get out of this first. When they found an opportunity, they would definitely tear this Leng Xiaojiu and the other two people into pieces. At this moment, Yun Chujio said with a bright smile, "However, I'm a little narrow-minded. If I let you go just like that, what if you turn against me and refuse to acknowledge me? How about this? Each of you will give me 100,000 spirit stones as a thank you fee. It's not that I'm greedy, but it's to teach you a lesson so that you won't cause harm to others in the future. Then, make a poison vow that you will never harm me, my brother, Uncle Feng, and even our family and friends. You are not allowed to have any evil intentions. If you break the vow, you will be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." Although everyone was fuming with anger, in order to survive, they still agreed. However, some people thought that they could make up the numbers when they made the vow, so they only opened their mouths and didn't make a sound. They thought that they could deceive the world, but they didn't expect that all the people who made up the numbers were poisoned to death by the desert wasps. Those who survived didn't dare to resist anymore. This Leng Xiaojiu wasn't human at all. She was a devil. After everyone had taken the oath, Yun Chujio said with a troubled expression, "Sigh, the former chief Zhao Zijing is dead. This so-called country cannot be without a ruler for a day. There are so many of us, how can we do it without a leader? However, the choice of the chief is a little difficult. Do you have any good suggestions?" Everyone really wanted to strangle this guy. They were not fools, so they naturally understood what Yun Chujio meant by asking this question. Therefore, everyone quickly said sensibly, "Miss Xiaojiu, you are resourceful and kind-hearted. You are the best candidate for the alliance leader." "Yes, Miss Xiaojiu. Other than you, no one else can be qualified for the position of the alliance leader." "Yes, we all agree to elect you as the leader of our alliance." Hei Xinjiu waved her hand pretentiously and sighed again. "Sigh. It's really hard to decline such a kind offer. All right, I'll reluctantly become the leader of the alliance. However, my request is a little high. Although we are unaffiliated cultivators, we can't be undisciplined like a plate of loose sand. If we do that, not only will we be looked down upon by the coalition army at the front line, but we will also lose our lives if we make a mistake. The loss outweighs the gain. Therefore, this alliance leader has made a few rules for you. The first rule is that you must abide by your words and actions. Regardless of whether what this alliance leader says is right or not, you must strictly carry it out. The second rule is that you are not allowed to act on your own. The third rule, the people from the unaffiliated cultivator alliance, they only wanted to give Hei Xinjiu one sentence: acting cool will get you struck by lightning. And you still can't refuse her kindness? And it was hard to force her? Why did it look like you were prepared? Otherwise, why would there be such a rule? They must have thought of it long ago. Leng Kuei suddenly had an idea. Could it be that Yun Chujio wanted to join the loose cultivator alliance because of the alliance leader? Leng Kuei felt that it was impossible. This fellow was only at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm. How could he have such confidence? The reason why he became the alliance leader was merely a coincidence. That's right, Leng Kuei attributed all of this to a coincidence. Because, up until now, he and Feng Ji still didn't understand what was going on. Those black vines were originally attacking them, but Yun Chujio only asked them to close their eyes. After a while, those vines retreated. Then this bad news was brought up. She wanted to leave for a while, but when she returned, she insisted on going back. She said that she wanted to watch the show. In the end, they saw the members of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance being besieged. Leng Kuei felt that these black vines, red ants, and sand sea poisonous bees must be related to Yun Chujio, but he couldn't figure out how she did it. Leng Kuei shook his head. Although he still did not like Yun Chujio's personality, he had to admit that this little girl had many abilities that he did not know. In the next few days, Yun Chujio focused on training these freelance martial artists to be strict and disciplined. If they disobeyed orders, They would be punished according to the rules of the Alliance and would not be lenient. When they were about to leave the extreme West Sand Sea, these freelance martial artists had already taken He Xingjia's words as an imperial edict. It was not that they approved of Yun Chujiu, but that this guy was really evil. If she disobeyed her orders, she would be punished. He Xingjiu took out 2 masks, put one on herself, and handed one to Leng Kuei. What do you mean? What are you trying to do this time? Leng Kuei had an ominous feeling in his heart. Yun Chujiu lowered her voice and said, I don't want to go to the Allied army and see other people's expressions. We are so free and easy to build our own mountain. We will reveal our identities after we have made a few meritorious deeds. When that time comes, we will shock their jaws. Nonsense. Besides, I didn't change my name. They knew it was me the moment they heard it. And this Leng Xiaojiu of yours, they knew it was you the moment they guessed it. Leng Kuei felt that although this little girl was full of evil intentions, she was really a useless name maker. She didn't even know how to use a pseudonym. She directly said his name. She had created a Leng Xiaojiu of her own. This was no different from directly telling others. What was the difference between their identities? Isn't that simple? They'll change your name. You don't have to be called Leng Kuei anymore, you can be called Leng De Tu instead. The useless naming felt that his name was pretty good. After all, when Kuei was taken apart, it would be De Tu. Leng Kuei was so angry that he was twitching. Leng De Tu? He was the personal disciple of the sect master of the Murder Essence sect. How could he call himself Leng De Tu, such a lame name? Even if it was a fake name, he couldn't do it. Not even if he was beaten to death. Senior Brother Leng, I think this name is pretty good. This way, no one will doubt your identity. Besides, the vast desert couldn't use talismans, so they didn't know that we were here. They wouldn't think that it was us. Senior Brother Leng, you disobeyed orders this time. If you don't do something earth-shattering, Master Xiaohou will definitely punish you. Moreover, you are the #1 person among the younger generation of the murderous origin sect. Don't you want to prove your strength? If you go to the Allied army with so many old fellows, will you still be able to show off? Under He Xingjia's boisterous words, the miserable Leng Kuei vaguely agreed to the name of Leng Dadi. By the time Leng Kuei wanted to go back on his words, it was already too late. He Xingjiu had already threatened all the people in the Loose Cultivator Alliance to erase the name of Leng Kuei from their minds and completely replace it with Leng Dadi. Leng Dadi, who had just come out of the oven, had no choice but to recognize this name. After all, he was wearing a mask, so the people of the Alliance wouldn't be able to recognize him. Finally, on this day, the Loose Cultivator Alliance left the extreme West Desert Sea and arrived at the vast desert. The entrance of the vast desert was guarded by the people of the Alliance. When they saw the banners fluttering in the distance, thousands of people lined up in a line. They were even more disciplined than the armies of the secular world. Which faction was this? That was not right. The Shi Yuan sect, the Hun Yuan sect, and all the big aristocratic families had already sent people over. Moreover, they had sent thousands of people at once. Even small sects did not have the strength to do so. At the front of the group was a woman wearing a silver mask. She wore a red dress and looked like she was on fire against the wind. Lai Yen was wearing a silver mask. Cough cough, her spiritual power was a little low. Was she at the 6th level of the Lingxian realm? With such a low spiritual power, she couldn't be the leader of this faction, right? Just as the disciples on duty were puzzled. Someone from the group cupped his fists and said, "We are the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance of the Immortal Essence Continent. This is our leader Leng Xiaojiu. We are here to help the Alliance." The disciples on duty of the Alliance suddenly realized that these people were all unaffiliated cultivators. No wonder there were so many of them. However, weren't itinerant cultivators always free and undisciplined? Why were the people of the Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators even more disciplined than their Alliance army? However, their Alliance leader looked very young, and his spiritual power was so low. Were they playing around? Although the disciples on duty muttered in their hearts, They still politely cupped their hands toward Yun Chujio and the person who spoke. Then, they said, "We will send someone to pass the message right away. Please wait a moment." As the vast desert forbade flying and could not use talismans, the method of transmitting messages was very primitive, which was to rely on human strength or spirit beasts. However, fortunately, the speed of the cultivators was not slow. In less than an hour, the disciple on duty who went to deliver the message came back, and he also brought an old acquaintance of Yun Chujio, Mountain Master Zhua of the Primordial Chaos sect. The reason why the Allied army sent Mountain Master Zhua over was that although the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance was a newly emerged organization, it was still considered a medium-sized force. The Allied army still had to give some face to it, therefore, they sent Mountain Master Zhua, who had a high status, to personally welcome him. When Mountain Master Zhua saw the leader of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance dressed in red, he was stunned. The leader of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance was actually a little girl? Only at the 6th level of the Ling Xian realm? Mountain Master Zhua thought of the name of the leader again. Leng Xiaojiu? Could it be Yun Chujio, that troublemaker? Mountain Master Zhua shook his head when he thought of this. This should be just a coincidence. Not to mention that the troublemaker was still in the Primordial Chaos sect. Even if she really sneaked out, it was impossible for her to become the leader of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance. Besides, although this Leng Xiaojia's spiritual power was low, her entire person was fierce, like a sharp sword. Her temperament was completely different from that of the troublemaker. He must have been thinking too much. However, which of the unaffiliated cultivators behind her did not have higher spiritual power than this little girl? Why would the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance choose such a little girl to be the Alliance Master? Although several thoughts flashed through Mountain Master Zhua's mind, he did not show it on his face at all. He politely cupped his hands towards Yun Chujio and said, "Alliance Master Leng, it's a pleasure to meet you. Alliance Master Yen of the Alliance Army has ordered me to come and welcome everyone. Please come in." Yun Chujio was very proud in her heart. It was better for her to establish her own mountain. Otherwise, how could she receive such good treatment? This fellow changed his fake voice and exchanged a few words of courtesy before following Mountain Master Zhua inside. When Mountain Master Zhua heard that Yun Chujio's voice was completely different from Yun Chujio's, he felt that he was thinking too much. It made sense. Although that little girl had a lot of bad intentions, it was impossible for her to subdue so many unaffiliated cultivators. Moreover, the spiritual power of these unaffiliated cultivators was much higher than hers. Alliance leader Leng is truly a young hero. To become the alliance leader of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance at such a young age, it is truly admirable. Mountain Master Zhua said without batting an eyelid. "Senior Zhua, you flatter me. This junior only saved the former alliance leader of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance by chance. When the former alliance leader passed the position of alliance leader to this junior on his deathbed, this junior could only thicken his skin and take over." Yun Chujio said courteously. When those people from the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance heard Yun Chujio's words, the corners of their eyes twitched. "Are you sure you saved the former alliance leader? That Zhao Zijing was clearly killed because of you, right? Pass it to you? You were clearly the one who shamelessly snatched the position of alliance leader, all right? However, being thick-skinned was right. You were really shameless." How could Mountain Master Zhua know the twists and turns in this matter? Only then did his doubts disappear. He had said it before, how could the Loose Cultivator Alliance allow a little girl to be the alliance leader for no reason? It turned out to be a coincidence. As they were moving forward, Mountain Master Zhua occasionally caught a glimpse of the Loose Cultivator Alliance's troops. They were all in unison and had a powerful aura. In his heart, he was very impressed with the short-lived former alliance leader. To be able to train these unaffiliated soldiers to such a state, that former alliance leader was truly a talent in leading troops in battle. Unfortunately, he had already passed away and had no chance to meet him. Very quickly, Yun Chujio and the others arrived at the camp of the Alliance Army. The people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance naturally could not follow them to meet the leader of the Alliance Army. Yun Chujio only brought Leng Kuei and Feng Ji and followed Mountain Master Zhua to the Alliance Army's meeting tent. Mountain Master Zhua naturally wanted to ask about the identities of Leng Kuei and Feng Ji out of courtesy. He Xinjiao said with a faint smile, "This is the Deputy Alliance leader of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, Leng Datu. This is the money manager of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, Feng Ji." The corner of Mountain Master Zhua's eyes twitched. Leng Datu? The name of this deputy chief was quite unique. However, his surname was also Leng. Could he be the brother of this Leng Xiaojiao? Although Mountain Master Zhua was curious, he didn't ask much. The four of them entered the meeting tent. These leaders of the Alliance Army maintained their identity and didn't go out to welcome them. They felt that the so-called unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance was just a bunch of motley people. Sending Mountain Master Zhua to welcome them was already giving the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance a lot of face. When Yun Chujio and the others came in, everyone revealed a look of contempt. Was there no one left in the loose Cultivator Alliance? They actually let a little girl be the Alliance Master? The current commander of the Alliance Army was Alliance Master Yen of the Sky-Bearing Alliance. He was also very surprised when he saw Yun Chujio. Before he could say anything, the head of the Fan family snorted coldly. "As the Alliance Master of the Loose Cultivator Alliance, what is there to hide? To actually wear a mask? This is really outrageous." As soon as the leader of the Fan family said that, although the others felt that he was a little overstepping his authority, they still somewhat agreed with him in their hearts. The leader and deputy leader of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance were both wearing masks on their faces. Could it be that they had some shortcomings that could not be seen? Leng Kuei's palms immediately broke out in cold sweat. He grumbled in his heart. He had said that this would not do. Once he was exposed, how would he end up? This bad news had really made him suffer. The corners of Yun Chujio's lips curled up. She then took off the mask. Immediately, she heard a series of gasps. Her petite face was filled with scars. It was simply too horrible to look at. Yun Chujio put on the mask again and pretended to be strong as she said, "Seniors, this is the reason why this junior is wearing the mask. This junior also knows that this is a little rude, but the appearance of this junior and brother is damaged because of this, so I'm afraid of scaring others, so I can avoid some unnecessary trouble." People always sympathized with the weak, so everyone suddenly felt a little embarrassed, and some even complained about the head of the Fan family. Why did he ask this question when he owed his son? The head of the Fan family snorted coldly and didn't say anything. The reason why he was making trouble was because he felt that it was unfair. He felt that the Alliance Master of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance was so young. It was really unsatisfying. Alliance Master Yen laughed and said, "Please take a seat, everyone. Now is the time to use people. You can be said to be sending charcoal in the snow." Alliance Master Yen is young and promising. It is really admirable. Alliance Master Yen is too serious. As the saying goes, the rise and fall of the world is the responsibility of the man. Although we unaffiliated cultivators don't have any sex or sex, we are still a member of the immortal Yuan continent. We should contribute to the safety of the immortal Yuan continent, a certain Jiao said pretentiously. Leng Kuei was stunned by He Xinjia's pretentious act. How could this bad thing be so serious? Alliance Master Yen and He Xinjiao exchanged some pleasantries and naturally got to the main topic. Alliance Master Yen, what are your specific plans? Alliance Master Yen's question was just a formality. He felt that Yun Chujio would definitely say whatever he wanted. After all, the Alliance Army was the main force now. The unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance was just a small force that came to seek refuge. Alliance Master Yen, logically speaking, our Freelance Martial Artist Alliance should be under your command and listen to your orders. However, you also know that we freelance martial artists are used to being undisciplined, and I'm afraid we don't fit in. How about this? You assign a defensive area to our freelance martial artist alliance. We will definitely guard the defensive line with our lives and never retreat, Hei Shinjio said with a faint smile. Alliance Master Yen frowned. This little girl clearly wanted to establish her own sect. She was young, but her ambition was not small. However, what she said made some sense. Unaffiliated cultivators had always been disobedient. If they were to be merged into the Alliance army, there might be trouble. However, although there were quite a number of unaffiliated cultivators, could they be loyal to their duties? Just as Alliance Master Yen was hesitating, the head of the Fan family snorted coldly. Alliance Master, since the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance wants to establish their own sect, then let them guard the Deathwind Gap. Anyway, they have more people so they can form a human wall to hold on for a while. The expressions of everyone present were a little unnatural. The words of the head of the Fan family obviously carried a hint of mockery. It was nothing more than saying that the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance could not withstand a single blow and could only rely on numbers to make up the numbers. Moreover, the windbreak was the most difficult part of the defensive line to defend. It was easy to attack but difficult to defend. Wasn't this just watching the Loose Cultivator Alliance make a fool of themselves? It was likely that in a few days, the Loose Cultivator Alliance would suffer heavy losses. This was a little too unethical. Alliance Master Yen frowned. Although he was dissatisfied with Yun Chujia's decision to establish her own sect, regardless of whether it was from the overall situation or from his own heart, he would not do such a thing to scam people. Alliance Master Yen looked at the Fan family's patriarch with disapproval and then said to Yun Chujio, "How about this? The yellow mud mound is easy to defend but hard to attack. Your freelance martial artist alliance will go and defend there." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Alliance Master Yen, the Fan family's patriarch, is right. Our freelance martial artist alliance has many people, so we should go and defend the Malefic Wind Gap. If you are worried, you can send a few helpers for us. The people in the meeting tent suddenly had another comment about Yun Chujio. She was young and frivolous. This little girl really did not know what was good for her. The yellow mud mound that Alliance Master Yen assigned to them was the easiest area to guard in the defense line. She actually took the initiative to ask to guard the windbreak. This was simply asking for trouble. The head of the Fan family's eyes revealed a look of contempt. A little girl really took him seriously? She actually took the initiative to request to guard the storm vent, and there would be a day when she would cry. Alliance Master Yen was also a little displeased in his heart. He thought to himself, since you are asking for trouble, then it would be good to let you suffer a little. It would be a good opportunity to temper her arrogance. Young people still needed to temper their edges, or they would sooner or later suffer a great loss. Alliance Master Yen swept his gaze around the large tent for the meeting. Just as he was about to send a few people to help Yun Chujio, he heard Yun Chujio say, "Alliance Master Yen, I heard that there are many young talents from the Han Yuan sect and the Shi Yuan sect. Can you send a few of them to us? They are all young people so we can communicate with them." Everyone secretly shook their heads. How did this Leng Xiaojiao become the Alliance Master of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance? This brain of his was simply full of holes. Instead of looking for help from a mighty figure like Mountain Master Zhua, he actually asked for a few hotheads. Wasn't this sick or what? Alliance Master Yen had originally held some hope for the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, but now there was practically nothing left. If Alliance Master was so unreliable, then this Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance probably wouldn't be able to withstand a single blow. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Alliance Master Yen pondered for a moment. It was fine. He would do as she said. If the evil wind gap fell, she would be honest. Anyway, he would arrange another group of people to fill in the gaps at the back. If the Loose Cultivator Alliance fell, the evil wind gap would not fall. Alliance Master Yen thought of this, he nodded. That's fine. Later, I will ask Mountain Master Zhua to bring you to pick a few young people. Initially, when Alliance Master Leng came from afar, I should have held a banquet to entertain him. But now that the war has come to an end, Everything has been simplified. So I hope you don't mind. Yun Chujio nodded her head. Alliance Master Yen is too polite. Since there's nothing else, he'll pick a few people and then go to the windbreak to guard it. Alliance Master Yen exchanged a few more pleasantries before Yun Chujio and the others left the meeting tent. Mountain Master Zhua hesitated for a moment before reminding her, Alliance Master Leng, the windbreak is easy to attack but hard to defend. You must be prepared for any difficulties. If you go back on your words now, it's still not too late. Don't be caught off guard. Yun Chujio smiled brightly. Thank you for your good intentions, Mountain Master Zhua. The unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance likes to gnaw on hard bones. The harder it is to defend, the more we like it. Mountain Master Zhua was furious. This Ling Xiaojio was really arrogant. Sooner or later she would regret it. Mountain Master Zhua took out the roster and said coldly, these are all young disciples. Alliance Master Leng, please choose your men. Yun Chujio glanced at them and said casually, since they are all young talents from Super Sex, they shouldn't be too bad. Let's take these two then. Mountain Master Zhua looked at the two people Yun Chujio was pointing at and felt a little awkward. Yun Chujio was referring to Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao. These two could be said to be the cream of the crop among the younger generation of the Primordial Chaos sect. If they were to lose their lives because of this arrogant little girl, he wouldn't be able to explain it to Master Bailey. Mountain Master Zhua, what's wrong? These two can't do it? But that's true. These two are from the Primordial Chaos sect. Why don't I choose the one from the Killing Origin sect? Yun Chujio said with a hidden meaning. Mountain Master Zhua's old face turned red. He could only say, since you've chosen these two, then let them do it. Alliance Master Leng, the Yen clan is crafty and cunning. You mustn't be careless. If you really can't hold on, don't try to be brave. After all, there's still our alliance army. Yun Chujio said with a smile, Mountain Master Zhua, don't worry. I cherish my life the most and won't act recklessly. If the alliance army needs anything, feel free to come to our loose cultivator alliance. We will definitely not refuse. The corner of Mountain Master Zhua's eyes twitched. Where did this little girl get her confidence from? The Allied forces asked her for help? It was simply a fool's dream. After Mountain Master Zhua got someone to call in Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao over, he briefly explained the reason and then found an excuse to leave. Because he felt that if he stayed a little longer, he would definitely be unable to help but scold this arrogant little girl. She really deserved to be scolded. Leng Kuei, who was standing behind Yun Chujio, was already speechless. Moreover, he really did not want to speak right now. The Primordial Murder sect and the Primordial Chaos sect had always been at loggerheads. He was also an old acquaintance of Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao. Moreover, they had often ridiculed each other in the past. If they were to find out his identity, they would definitely laugh at him. Leng Datu? Fuck. The moment he thought of this vulgar name, he wanted to strangle this bad news bag, Yun Chujio. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao had yet to recover from their stupor. They were sent to the Loose Cultivator Alliance? The so-called chief and deputy chief were not reliable. Could they defend against the evil wind? And Lin Chuan sized up Yun Chujio at the thought of this and then widened his eyes. Junior sister Xiaojio? You? How did you become the leader of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance? Yun Chujio was secretly happy. This idiot was much better than those old fogies. However, she didn't intend to admit it. This idiot looked at Lin Chuan with a puzzled look and then said, Young hero, and although my name is indeed Leng Xiaojio, we aren't senior brothers and sisters, right? And Lin Chuan rubbed his eyes. Although Leng Xiaojio was wearing a mask, he looked like junior sister Xiaojio no matter how he looked at her. Was he really mistaken? However, it was also true. Junior sister Xiaojio was fine in the Primordial Chaos sect. How could she come here and become the alliance leader of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance? He must be thinking too much. Moreover, the voice didn't sound like it. It seemed that he had really mistaken her for someone else. Shangguan Hao had the same question at the side, but in the end he dispelled it. He felt that it was only because the two of them were around the same age, and they were both called Little Jiao. That was why he felt that they were similar. Yes, that must be the case. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao originally didn't have the slightest confidence in the so-called Loose Cultivator Alliance. They felt that they were extremely unlucky. In the end, if the evil wind mouth fell, they would also have to bear the blame. However, when they saw the Loose Cultivator Alliance stationed outside, they immediately stopped looking down on them. These loose cultivators stood upright. In comparison, they felt that the people of the Alliance looked like loose cultivators. The people of the Loose Cultivator Alliance were actually very conflicted in their hearts. They originally hated the evil He Xinjiu to death. They were originally so free and unfettered. But ever since this black-hearted person had become the Alliance leader, their good days had ended. Training them to stand in formation all day long, wasn't that crazy? Unfortunately, they had already sworn a poison oath and could only allow this black-hearted person to torment them. They were so miserable that they wanted to bang their heads against the wall. However, when the people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance saw the astonished gazes of the people from the Alliance army, a sense of pride suddenly rose in their hearts, and there was even a little bit of pride. The vast majority of the people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance had indeed come to fight against the Yen clan. Otherwise, they would not have gone through so much trouble to rush to the vast desert. Therefore, at this moment, the resistance in their hearts towards Yun Chujiu had lessened by a lot. Perhaps this black-hearted little girl had done the right thing. Yun Chujiu walked in front of the people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance. She said in a clear voice, "Just now, I made a military order in front of Alliance Master Yen of the Alliance Army. Our Loose Cultivator Alliance is responsible for the defense of the Wind Gap. If the Wind Gap is lost, I will commit suicide in front of Alliance Master Yen." The people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance were in an uproar. Was this black-hearted person crazy? So what if it was a defense? Why did she make a military order? Moreover, from what she said, the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance wanted to defend alone? Yun Chujiu coughed and everyone immediately quieted down. No one dared to make a sound. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao looked at the side and were extremely surprised. Even Alliance Master Yen didn't have such strength in the Alliance army. This Ling Xiaojiu had some skills. In addition, the windbreak is the most easy to attack and difficult to defend area in the defensive line. You must think that I'm asking for trouble, right? Yun Chujiu paused at this point and glanced at the crowd before continuing. The reason why I picked the hardest bone is to prove that the people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance are not inferior to the Alliance army. The people of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance are not trash, and we are not cowards. Some of you are timid and some are afraid of death. If you bring it up now, I will release you immediately. Is there? No one from the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance made a sound. Even if there were a few who wanted to retreat, they were too embarrassed to step forward. What a joke. They had already come, wouldn't it make people laugh their heads off if they backed out now? Yun Chujiu nodded with satisfaction. Very good. They are indeed the mainstays of our immortal origin continent. As long as there is still one person left in our unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance, the malefic vent will never fall into the hands of the Yen clan. We vow to live and die together with the base. We vow to live and die together with the base. We vow to live and die together with the base. Loud and uniform voices rang out like thunder. Even Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao were affected by this imposing manner and could not help but shout out as well. Such a loud noise naturally attracted the attention of many people. Even the people in the large meeting tent also came out to check. When they saw the imposing Loose Cultivator Alliance, they were truly shocked. This was the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance? Shouldn't the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance be a loose sand? How could it be so disciplined? Moreover, this aura could be described as having the power to swallow mountains and rivers. Although there were only a few thousand people, this aura was even more powerful than the tens of thousands of people in the Alliance army. It was really strange. Everyone thought that Yun Chujio was overestimating herself when she took the initiative to defend the wind gap. Now that they looked at it, it seemed like she had some tricks up her sleeve. Perhaps she could really do it? The head of the Fan family snorted coldly. These are just superficial moves. With a little effort, the Alliance army will be like this in less than 3 days. Fighting is not acting, so what's the use of looking good? It still depends on actual combat ability. Although everyone felt that what the head of the Fan family said was not pleasant to hear, they felt that what he said made sense. Although it looked good, it was useless if it was just a show. At this time, Yun Chujio had already led the Loose Cultivator Alliance to the Wind Gap. The Wind Gap was a few hundred li away from the Alliance army's meeting tent. However, these cultivators were very fast. After 2 hours, they had arrived at the Wind Gap. Bai Li and the rest of the group had already arrived at the Wind Gap. Yun Chujio finally understood the origin of the Wind Gap. There was an endless mountain range in the vast desert, which was a natural barrier. The place where the gust of wind came from was the narrowest and shortest part of the mountain range, and there was a fierce gust of wind. The worst part was that the gust of wind came from the direction of the Nightmare Race. In other words, when the Nightmare Race attacked, they weren't affected by the gust of wind, but the side defending was facing it. The gust of wind was filled with tiny wind blades. Although it wasn't fatal, it would greatly reduce their battle power. Mountain Master Zhao of the Fire Peak of the Sky-Killing Sect, who had been defending the Wind Gap, was surprised when he saw Yun Chujio and the others. Mountain Master Zhao, what's going on? Mountain Master Zhao asked, after seeing the document with the Alliance Army seal on it. He then said, "All right, since that's the case, well, retreat. I'll leave the Wind Gap to you. The Nightmare Race has been doing a lot recently, so you have to be careful." Yun Chujio nodded her head. Mountain Master Zhao, don't worry. Our alliance will definitely guard the Killing Wind Gap. We won't give the Nightmare Race any chance to take advantage of it. In truth, Mountain Master Zhao really didn't trust the alliance, even though it seemed like it was a big deal. Would it really work? Would it collapse the moment it encountered the attack of the Nightmare Race? However, since there was a transfer order from the higher-ups, it wasn't good for him to do anything. After giving a few more instructions, he left the Killing Wind port with his subordinates. Yun Chujio inspected the terrain and immediately arranged for the alliance to set up camp. After 4 hours, everything was finally arranged properly. Yun Chujio sat in the meeting tent and summoned the leaders of her 9 battalions. Of course, the deputy alliance leader of Lung Datu, Feng Ji, and Linchuan, and Shangguan Hao were also present. Yun Chujio first said some polite words, such as welcoming in Linchuan and Shangguan Hao to help, so as to introduce them to each other. Then Yun Chujio changed the topic. The windbreak is the easiest to attack and the hardest to defend, so we must be vigilant. If any of your battalions make a mistake while on duty, don't blame me for turning hostile. Of course, if any of your battalions or anyone performs well, I won't mistreat them. We, the Loose Cultivator Alliance, will definitely make sure that the rewards and punishments are clear. Once I find out about those bad apples that are just to make up the numbers, I won't let them off easily. The leaders of the 9 battalions repeatedly agreed and were extremely obedient. Yun Chujio nodded her head in satisfaction and then instructed them to take note of some things before she let them leave first. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao watched from the side and could not help but click their tongues in amazement. This Leng Xiaojiu really had the skills to command her subordinates to be so obedient. How did she do it? Just as the two of them were feeling puzzled, they heard Yun Chujio say, "Young heroes, you arrived earlier than us. Have you ever fought head-on with the Yen clan?" And Linchuan straightened his back. He said confidently, "Of course." However, those bastards of the Yen clan were cowardly and sneaky. They probably saw us sending more troops and retreated almost immediately. They couldn't get enough of us. Yun Chujio ignored him and turned to ask Shangguan Hao, "Young hero Shangguan, what do you think of the Yen clan?" And Linchuan, what did this little Leng Jiu mean? Was he blatantly ignoring him? Had he offended her before? Shangguan Hao was obviously more reliable than in Linchuan. He pondered for a moment and said, "Although we managed to stop the Yen clan's attack in the previous confrontation, we paid a heavy price." From this, it can be seen that the Yen clan's current dodging and evading are definitely not normal. They must be plotting something. The windbreak is the weakest point of our defense line. They are likely to use the windbreak as a breakthrough point. We must be fully prepared. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. What young hero Shangguan said makes sense. However, I believe that the Yen clan will not use the windbreak as a breakthrough point. On the contrary, they are likely to use the yellow mud mound as a breakthrough point. This is called doing the opposite just to catch us off guard. And Lin Chuan could not hold it in any longer and could not help but laugh out loud. Are you joking? The yellow mud mound is easy to defend but hard to attack. The Yen clan will only attack from the yellow mud mound if they are stupid. The Yen clan has been testing us a few times recently. It is obvious that they have more troops at the windbreak. Isn't this obvious? Yun Chujio glanced at Lin Chuan as if she was looking at an idiot. Do you know how we lost the last time? We were just taking it for granted. The Yen clan was naturally cunning. If they really wanted to attack from the windbreak, they wouldn't have specially arranged more troops at the windbreak. They were just pretending to be lost. And Lin Chuan inexplicably felt that this feeling of being attacked until he was about to vomit blood was very familiar. Did the little girl called Little Jiu like to attack him? Shangguan Hao felt that what Yun Chujio said made some sense. He said in a deep voice, "Alliance Master Leng, in that case, you'd better report this idea to Alliance Master Yen as soon as possible." The corner of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. Even if I do, he might not agree with my idea. I have a better idea. A better idea? What idea? Shangguan Hao asked in confusion. There are 9 battalions in our loose cultivator alliance. I plan to leave 5 battalions to guard the windbreak, and the other 4 battalions to lie in ambush near the yellow mud mound. Once the nightmare race attacks from the yellow mud mound, we can catch them off guard and torture them to death. Yun Chujio's eyes flashed with coldness. Although she did not know any of the people who had self-detonated before, the elders of the primordial chaos sect and the murderous sect were her fellow disciples. Therefore, the overprotective ones now hated the sinister and cunning nightmare race to death. Whether it was Shangguan Hao and Lin Chuan Leng Kuei, or Feng Ji, they all thought that Yun Chujio had gone mad. Only 5 battalions were left to guard the windbreak? 1 battalion had 400 people, while 5 battalions only had 2,000. Once the nightmare race attacked, they wouldn't be able to defend it. Even Mountain Master Zhao had brought nearly 3,000 people to guard this place, let alone the Alliance army. Their spiritual power was much higher than the cultivators of the Alliance. You're making trouble. You're talking nonsense. I don't agree. Leng Kuei's opinion of Yun Chujio had already improved. Now that he heard it, he immediately felt that Yun Chujio was here to cause trouble. Vice President Leng Datu, please pay attention to your attitude. You need to calm down, He Xinjiu said with a hidden meaning. Leng Kuei was so angry that he was twitching. Of course, he knew that Yun Chujio was threatening him. If he said more, she would expose his identity. He was different from Yun Chujio, who was a bad person. He wanted face. Therefore, Leng Kuei could only sit by the side in anger and keep quiet. Feng Ji saw the situation. He advised earnestly, Alliance Chief, although the Vice Alliance Chief's attitude isn't very good, his worries are correct. If you only leave 5 battalions to guard the windbreak, if your guess is wrong and the Nightmare Clan rushes through the windbreak, the consequences will be unimaginable. And Lin Chuan felt that he had finally stood on the moral high ground and echoed, that's right, if the windbreak is lost, you will be a sinner of the immortal Yuan continent. You should give up this idea as soon as possible. Sister Leng, although you have some skills in governing your military appearance, you are still lacking in strategic skills. You'd better give up. I think Vice President Leng Datu is much stronger than you. Men! He Xinjiu suddenly shouted. The 8 men on duty outside the meeting tent immediately walked in. President! Drag this and Lin Chuan away. He has offended his superiors and disrespected his superiors. He will be punished with 10 strokes of the military rod. After he is beaten, bring him here for me, Yun Chujio said with a gloomy face. And Lin Chuan had been successful since he was young. When had he ever received such treatment? He immediately jumped to his feet and refused to accept it. Leng Xiaojiu, what right do you have to punish me? I am not a member of your unaffiliated cultivator alliance. Yun Chujio sneered. Although you are not a member of our unaffiliated cultivator alliance, Alliance Master Yen has assigned you to me, so you are my subordinate. You openly question my ability and try to incite Deputy Alliance Master Leng Datu to usurp the throne. What are your intentions? According to your actions, even if you were to be beaten to death, it would be a light punishment. Now that I've only beaten you 10 times, it's already giving face to the primordial chaos sect. What are you guys still standing there for? Hurry up and drag him down. And Lin Chuan was so angry that he was jumping up and down. Just as he was about to resist, the 8 people from the unaffiliated cultivators alliance suddenly stepped forward and restrained him. These 8 people were carefully selected by Yun Chujio. They all had high spiritual power and were obedient. Let alone having them subdue and Lin Chuan, even if they were to subdue Alliance Master Yen, they might still do it. Gag his mouth so that I don't get upset when I hear him shouting, Yun Chujio said in disgust. One of his men immediately gagged in Lin Chuan's mouth and dragged him down. Shang Guanhao was shocked. When he reacted, and Lin Chuan, the unlucky boy, had been dragged out. He was about to speak when he heard Yun Chujio sigh, Young hero Shangguan, I had no choice. Young hero and has a straightforward personality, but he is really outspoken. This is a battlefield, and I have thousands of soldiers under me. If I don't punish him, where will my authority be? I have tolerated him a few times before, but not only is he unrepentant, he has become even worse. His crimes are unforgivable. Young hero Shangguan, you're a sensible person. I hope you can understand my painstaking efforts. The reason why Yun Chujio found an excuse to punish Lin Chuan was, firstly, to protect her reputation as the leader of the unaffiliated cultivator alliance. Secondly, Lin Chuan's outspoken personality was bound to cause trouble sooner or later. It would be good to teach him a lesson so that he would learn his lesson. Shang Guanhao was speechless by Yun Chujio's words. Perhaps he and Lin Chuan felt that this Leng Xiaojiu was very similar to junior sister Xiaojiu, so he acted arrogantly. Indeed, although they were the true disciples of the Hunyuan sect, they were only members of the loose cultivator alliance on the front line. And Lin Chuan had no reason or position to say what he had just said. The 10 army batons were indeed too light. Thinking of this, Shang Guanhao swallowed his plea. Leng Kuei, who was at the side, knew that Yun Chujio was doing this to protect her prestige as the alliance leader. However, he still secretly thought that this Lin Chuan had not offended this bad news bag before, right? This troublemaker wouldn't be using his official position to seek personal revenge, right? After a short while, Lin Chuan was brought back. Because he was a cultivator, the 10 army batons were actually nothing. It was like scratching an itch. However, this guy was proud and arrogant. After being beaten up by the 10 army batons in front of everyone, one could imagine how much he hated Yun Chujio. His eyes were about to spit fire. However, his spiritual power was restrained, so it couldn't pose any threat to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio sneered, You hate me very much? And Lin Chuan snorted, H? There was nothing to say that I was now under the control of others. However, I don't think I was wrong. Your decision just now was an extremely stupid mistake. I said those words for the safety of the immortal Yuan continent. I wasn't wrong. Yun Chujio laughed softly, You are not wrong? Then if I run to your primordial chaos sect and tell Master Bailey that he is not worthy to be the sect leader of the primordial chaos sect, I might as well give the position of sect leader to Mountain Master Zhua. What do you think will happen to me? And Lin Chuan's face was flushed red from the rebuke. He tried to defend himself. Even if what I said at the end is my fault, what about the first part? Your decision will put the entire Alliance army in a passive position. You made a wrong decision, yet you don't allow others to express their opinions? Yun Chujio glanced at him. I will give you a chance to prove that you are wrong. Go to the horseshoe colt that is 10 miles away from the windbreak and take a look. If there is no team from the Alliance army there to reinforce and defend our windbreak, I will give the position of the Alliance Master to the Deputy Alliance Master of Lung Datu. Lung Kuei could not care less about the outdated name and said in surprise, Are you saying that Alliance Master Yen has deployed troops at the Horseshoe Colt? Just to prevent us from not being able to defend the windbreak? Yun Chujio laughed self-deprecatingly. Our unaffiliated cultivator alliance is just a motley crew. How can the alliance trust us with such an important pass like the Wind Gap? There will definitely be a reinforcement team at the Horseshoe Colt, and the number will not be less than 2,000 people. And Lin Chuan straightened his neck and said indignantly, You are trying to measure the heart of a gentleman with a villain's heart. Since Alliance Master Yen asked your freelance martial artist alliance to guard this place, why would he still send someone else to guard Horseshoe Colt? I don't believe it. This is not the behavior of a villain, but just in case. If I were Alliance Master Yen, I would also do the same. After all, the windbreak is such an important juncture, so it's natural to be cautious. Since you don't believe me, then go and take a look now. Yun Chujio said nonchalantly. Let's take a look. If there are no troops stationed at Horseshoe Colt, are you really going to give the position of Alliance Master to Vice Alliance Master Lung? And Lin Chuan felt that what Lung Xiaojio said was simply nonsense. Alliance Master Yen would never do that. Of course it's true. However, if there really are troops stationed at the Horseshoe Colt, what do you say? Yun Chujio looked at Lin Chuan with a faint smile. And Lin Chuan snorted coldly. They'll let you do whatever you want. A quarter of an hour later, Lin Chuan returned with his head drooping. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. What else do you have to say now, young heroine? The reason why I have left 5 battalions of soldiers to guard the Xiaofeng port is firstly because I am certain that the Yen clan will not attack from the Xiaofeng port. Secondly, even if I have made a mistake in my judgment, the troops stationed at the Horseshoe Colt won't cause any losses. And Lin Chuan's face was as red as a cooked shrimp as he said dryly, Even if I am wrong, it's fine, right? If you want to be killed or flayed, do as you please. I don't want to argue with you. I just hope that through this matter, you'll learn a lesson. Before you speak, think before you speak, and don't speak without thinking. And Lin Chuan opened his mouth, but he didn't say a word. Say what? The reason was in her hands. If he said any more, he would be asking for trouble. Lung Kuei and the others had nothing to say now. Even if they didn't say it, they couldn't help but be convinced in their hearts. This little girl could even guess the garrison troops of Horseshoe Colt. She really had a clear mind. Feng Ji pondered for a moment, then he said, Alliance leader, although we have Horseshoe Colt to supplement our defense, we do not have to worry about the windbreak being broken through. However, the Yellow Mud Mound is nearly 100 miles away from us. If we rush over, will the garrison of the Yellow Mud Mound be dissatisfied? Bai Li asked. Yun Chujio smiled. It is certain that they will be dissatisfied. If they are narrow-minded, they might even hate us. Therefore, we cannot go over now. We just need to be prepared. We'll go over when the wind blows and the grass rubs. We'll be there in less than an hour. We'll be able to make it in time. Feng Ji and the others only nodded in agreement and didn't say anything else. However, they had completely withdrawn their contempt in their hearts. When the people of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance saw that their little 9-union leader dared to beat up Lin Chuan, a personal disciple of the Primordial Chaos sect, they immediately became more obedient. If their little 9th League Master said that the moon in the sky was square, they would not have the slightest doubt. 3 days passed in a row, and everything was peaceful. The nightmare race had not made any movements. Yun Chujio could not help but grumble. She had not seen the nightmare race with her own eyes, so her understanding of the nightmare race was limited to the surface. She did not know what was the specific difference between the so-called nightmare race and the human race. And Lin Chuan, this fellow, did not know how to take a beating. He curled his lips and said, "You don't even know about the Yen clan, yet you have come to fight? You sure have guts." Yun Chujio glanced at him. "Since Heroine understands, then explain to me." And Lin Chuan suddenly felt that he had something to show off. He said proudly, "Although the Yen clan's body cannot turn into a fog like the Demon clan, they have a natural talent, which is to release the Yen Qi. After a cultivator inhales the Yen Qi, their thinking and actions will become sluggish. In this way, when the human clan and the Yen clan are fighting, they will have to divert their attention to avoid inhaling the Yen Qi, and their fighting strength will be greatly reduced." Yun Chujio glanced at him. "These books all have introductions, do you even need to tell me?" And Lin Chuan, this guy really wanted to slap himself, so he called him a mouth man. Shangguan Hao was afraid that this guy, and Lin Chuan, would anger Yun Chujio again, so he quickly said, "Other than these, the Nightmare Race's people are all very outstanding in appearance, and they also have their own charm. In addition, the people of the Yen clan don't raise spirit beasts, but nightmare beasts that consume nightmare energy. Nightmare beasts are generally larger in size, and they have fierce temperaments. They are very difficult to deal with." Yun Chujio nodded. Shangguan Hao was obviously much more reliable than that idiot, and Lin Chuan. In order to get back at him, and Lin Chuan said, "How is it? Do you feel that you're thinking too simply now? Even if it's really like you said, and the Yen clan will attack from the Yellow Mud Mound, you may not be able to help even if you bring 4 battalions. We'll know when we find out if we can't help. However, young master, and do you want to be intimate with the military staff again?" And Lin Chuan immediately became listless. He didn't want to embarrass himself anymore. Leng Xiaojiu will see. He wouldn't be a gentleman if he didn't take revenge. That night, a freelance martial artist on duty hurriedly reported, "Alliance leader, the Nightmare Race is starting to make a move." Yun Chujio's eyes lit up. Good timing. She had nothing better to do. This fellow propped up his spiritual energy barrier and climbed to the top of the mountain to look at the Yen clan's side. As expected, there were many black shadows moving. Although there was moonlight, one could only make out a rough outline. And Lin Chuan lowered his voice. "I think your guess is definitely wrong. The Yen clan is obviously sending more troops to the windbreak. Perhaps they will launch an attack in the second half of the night." Yun Chujio shook her head. "Although the Yen clan is sending more troops, you can see that the movements of those black shadows seem orderly but are actually chaotic. They must be setting up a trap. Uncle Feng, the 3 of us will bring the other 4 battalions to reinforce the Yellow Mud Mound immediately. You and Vice Alliance leader Leng will guard the windbreak. You don't want to make any mistakes, but you don't want to make any meritorious deeds. Just slowly deal with them and don't advance recklessly. It doesn't matter even if they really attack. Anyway, once the sounds of fighting start, those people from Horseshoe Cult will rush over soon. Don't worry." After spending the past few days together, Feng Zhi knew that although this Leng Xiaojiu was young, he was a man of his word. He immediately nodded and said, "Alliance leader, don't worry. I will do my best to guard the wind gap." Yun Chujio gave a few more instructions before leading in Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao to lead 4 battalions of itinerant cultivators to the Yellow Mud Mound. The Yellow Mud Mound was named because there was a large yellow mud swamp in the direction of the Yen clan. Due to the fact that flying was prohibited here, it was extremely difficult for the Yen clan to attack. As the Yellow Mud Mound was easy to defend but hard to attack, the Alliance army only sent less than 800 men to defend. The leader was Fan Jichuan, the son of the head of the Fan family, who was also Fan Mingchuan's father. Back then, the head of the Fan family had spent a lot of effort to obtain the Yellow Mud Mound. It was easy to defend but hard to attack, so it was the least dangerous. Not only could it increase the Fan family's prestige, but it would not be dangerous. Fan Mingchuan had also been played a little trick by the head of the Fan family and transferred to Fan Jiquan's side. During this period of time, he could be said to be in the prime of his life. These days, Fan Jichuan had been in a heated relationship with a female disciple of the Killing Yuan sect. He was more interested in beauty than power. Otherwise, he would not have been hooked up with Yi Xinwan in the first place. Moreover, the head of the Fan family had been grooming Fan Mingchuan. Therefore, Fan Jichuan directly became the manager, leaving the task of guarding the yellow mud mound to Fan Mingchuan. Fan Mingchuan became the actual person in charge of the yellow mud mound pass. Naturally, he was flattered by some people. He immediately vented out the cowardice he had received from Yun Chujio. He felt refreshed. As for the yellow mud pass defenses, he felt that they were absolutely safe. Besides, the other side was the yellow mud swamp. Unless the nightmare race had water in their brains, they would only use the yellow mud pass as a breakthrough point, so they could rest easy. The higher they went, the lower they worked. As the father and son of the Fan family were not paying attention, the allied armies below were even more careless. Dozing off while on duty occurred from time to time. Just as Fan Mingchuan was cultivating in the meeting tent, an allied force rushed in, rolling and crawling. Young hero Fan, this is bad. The Nightmare clan has already passed through the yellow mud swamp. They have already begun to attack the pass. What? Fan Mingchuan suddenly stood up. How is this possible? How did they pass through the yellow mud swamp? I don't know either. When I found them, they were already at the foot of the mountain. Quickly get someone to strengthen the defense. Smash the rolling stones and logs down. You must defend them. Yes. After Fan Mingchuan made simple arrangements, he quickly went to see Fan Jichuan. Fan Jichuan was drinking and having fun with the female disciple of the Killing Origin sect. When he heard that the Yen clan was about to attack, he was so scared that he sobered up. He hurriedly followed Fan Mingchuan to the top of the mountain. Mingchuan, I've given you the responsibility of defending. You actually made such a big mistake. You've really let me down. When Fan Jichuan thought of the serious consequences of losing the yellow mud mound, he immediately vented his anger on Fan Mingchuan. Fan Mingchuan was originally raised by the head of the Fan family. He was never close to Fan Jichuan. Now that he was reprimanded by him, he immediately retorted, Father, if you had spent your time having fun patrolling the pass, tonight wouldn't have happened. You vile creature. You actually dare accuse me of being your father? You've really rebelled. Fan Jichuan said angrily out of embarrassment. Father, you should calm down. It's more important to think of a way to defend the yellow mud mound. Otherwise, grandfather won't spare us. Fan Mingchuan really did not fancy his father, who was obsessed with women. The allied army under them had always been in a state of panic. Now that the main general and his son had started an internal conflict, everyone had even less backbone. Although the allied forces had prepared rolling stones and logs to smash down with all their might, the threat they posed to the Nightmare race was really limited. The Nightmare race had the intrepid Nightmare beasts clear the way in front while the Nightmare race people hid behind the Nightmare beasts. They had climbed halfway up the mountain without much effort. Fan Jichuan stomped his feet and shouted, What are you all standing there for? Use your spirit energy to attack and send the Nightmare race back. When everyone heard this, they quickly launched their spiritual beasts and spiritual power attacks in an attempt to stop the Nightmare race's attack. Sir Fan, the Nightmare race has 4 times more people than us. We can't hold them off at all. Yeah, the Nightmare race has obviously used our yellow mud mound as a breakthrough point. Sir Fan, young hero Fan, quickly send someone to call for help. Fan Jichuan roared in exasperation, Call for help? The nearest gust of wind is also 100 li away from us. Baile's yellow mud mound has long been lost. Moreover, there might be the Yen clan attacking from the gust of wind. Why would they send out troops to help us? Cut the crap and hold on for me. Although Fan Jichuan had said so, Fan Mingchuan still sent one of his men to the windbreak to ask for help. He thought to himself that even if the yellow mud mound was lost, he had done all he could. If the windbreak did not send anyone over, the defenders at the windbreak would have to share a part of the responsibility. At this moment, the nightmare race was only a few hundred feet away from the top of the mountain, and the nightmare race had begun to release their nightmare chi. On one hand, the Alliance army had to prevent the absorption of the nightmare chi, and on the other hand, they had to block the attacks of the nightmare beasts. They were instantly thrown into a flurry. When Fan Jichuan saw that something bad was going to happen, he actually ran away. He was the leader of the defending Alliance army. The moment he ran, the Alliance army under him instantly lost the will to continue fighting. They ignored the wild roars of Fan Mingchuan behind them and followed behind Fan Jichuan as they ran. Fan Mingchuan saw that the situation was over, so he had no choice but to bring the remaining small group of people down from the top of the mountain. Just as he was about to escape, several nightmare beasts had already rushed down from the top of the mountain. Only then did Fan Mingchuan realize that although the nightmare beasts that were the first to rush down did not have wings, they had a pair of fleshy wings on their bodies that were enough to support them to slide down from the top of the mountain without getting hurt. This kind of fleshy-winged nightmare beasts were extremely ferocious. They formed a wall of flesh, cutting off the Alliance army's path of retreat. Fan Jichuan felt this regret in his heart. If he had known this would happen, he would have retreated earlier. He did not care about any bullshit reputation. Preserving his life was more important than anything else. At this moment, the main army of the nightmare race also charged down from the peak of the mountain in an unending stream. The leader was a handsome man. The man smiled at the allied army, and the female cultivators felt their hearts tremble. If not for the suppression of their spiritual power, they might have already involuntarily thrown themselves into the arms of the man. Even Fan Jiquan's heart skipped a beat. He felt that this man was much more beautiful than the female disciple of the Killing Yuan sect, and his gaze became a little blurred. Fan Mingchuan saw his father's useless appearance and was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He shouted at the man sternly, "Your nightmare clan has already promised that the human race will never invade. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Tian Dao if you go back on your words?" The man smiled. "The relationship between our nightmare race and the human race is like that of a lion and a tiger. There has never been a logic of who is more noble and who is more lowly. It's just the law of the jungle. Back then, your human race was strong, so our nightmare race could only curl up in the far west. Now that our nightmare race is stronger, why can't we take back our territory with our strength?" Fan Mingchuan didn't know how to refute the man's words for a moment. He could only say weakly, "No matter what, you are betraying us. If you retreat now, we will pretend that nothing has happened. Otherwise, you will regret it." The man still had a smile on his face as he said, "You might have made a mistake. Right now, you are like fish in a barrel. The ones who should surrender are you. All of you, surrender immediately and submit to our nightmare race. You will become our slaves voluntarily. This young master can promise to spare all of you from death. Don't even think about it. How can a dignified cultivator like us become your nightmare race's slaves? Prepare to die." Fan Mingchuan directly released a spirit leopard towards the man. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. The young master of the nightmare race merely curled the corners of his lips and did not dodge at all. He directly struck out with his palm, and the black palm wind instantly tore Fan Mingchuan's spirit leopard into pieces. Fan Mingchuan was so shocked that he took a few steps back. Although his spirit energy was not too high, only at the 7th level of the spiritual void tier, his spirit beast would not be so easily smashed into pieces by someone else's palm. Moreover, the young master of the nightmare race in front of him did not look very old. How could he have such profound spiritual power? The young master of the nightmare race smiled arrogantly. The strength of the human race is indeed getting weaker and weaker with each generation. Even if you don't use the nightmare beast or the nightmare chi, you are still vulnerable to a single blow. If you know the situation and quickly surrender, or else you will only die. Although Fan Jichuan was afraid of death, in order to survive, he could only grit his teeth and charge forward. His spirit energy was much higher than Fan Mingchuan's, at the second level of the ethereal space realm. However, his second level of the ethereal space realm was activated by medicinal pills. His actual combat ability was really not that good. In less than 10 rounds, he had been sent flying by the young master of the nightmare race with a single slap. When the other experts in the allied army saw this, they all stepped forward to exchange blows with the young master of the nightmare race. Unfortunately, they had only lasted for less than 20 rounds before they were sent flying. Moreover, the young master of the nightmare race had not used any of the nightmare chi or the nightmare beast's external forces at all. The hearts of the allied army's people instantly sank. It was over. They were dead for sure. The young master of the nightmare race glanced at the allied army's people with disdain. Do you see that? This is the difference in strength. If you don't wish to die, then you will willingly accept the nightmare race's soul imprint and become the nightmare race's slaves. Don't worry, when our nightmare race governs the immortal essence continent, you will have even more power than you have now, and your cultivation speed will also be faster. They'll give you half an incense stick's worth of time to consider. If you insist on not surrendering, then the nightmare race will go on a killing spree. The reason why the young master of the nightmare race did this was because, although the allied forces had fewer people than them, it would also waste a lot of time if they fought. Secondly, if they were to take these people as slaves, they would be able to understand the details of the allied forces, which would be very advantageous for them in conquering the immortal Yuan continent. Thirdly, he could already see that Fan Jichuan was clearly afraid of death and would very likely surrender. As long as his leader surrendered, the rest of the people would most likely submit as well. Not far away, and Lin Chuan was so anxious that he stomped his feet. He lowered his voice and said, "Aren't we going to charge up? What are we waiting for?" Yun Chujio said indifferently, "Of course, we're watching a good show. Didn't the head of the Fan family look down on our unaffiliated cultivator alliance? I want everyone to see how his precious son and grandson surrendered to the Yen clan." And Lin Chuan, he now felt that this black-hearted Leng Xiaojiu was giving him a lot of face by beating him 10 times. This guy was a devil that ate people without spitting out their bones. The Fan family was really in deep shit this time. Once they really surrendered, when word spread out, they would be waiting to be stabbed in the spine by the people of the immortal essence continent. The time for half an incense stick to burn quickly passed. The young master of the nightmare race said with a smile, "The time for half an incense stick to burn is up. What do you all think? If you all still don't express your stance, I can only order my subordinates and the nightmare beasts to launch an attack." Following the words of the young master of the nightmare race, the people of the nightmare race began to clamor, and the nightmare beasts also began to roar in anger. For a moment, the alliance army fell into a strange silence. Fan Jichuan gritted his teeth and said to Fan Mingchuan, "Mingchuan, it's better to live than die. Young master is right. The strong prey on the weak. This is the law of the Tian Dao." The nightmare race was unstoppable. The human race could no longer hold on. Defeat was only a matter of time. I am prepared to surrender. You should also surrender with me. Fan Mingchuan's heart wavered, but he also felt that the Yen clan shouldn't be able to defeat the human race. If the human race won in the future, his ending would definitely be very miserable. Thus, he didn't say anything. Fan Jichuan saw that Fan Mingchuan didn't say anything, so he thought that he tacitly agreed. Thus, he said, "Young master, we, father and son, surrender. In the future, we'll be at your disposal. Don't worry, I will think of a way to persuade my father to surrender. Our Fan family is a super aristocratic family. With our help, the Yen clan will definitely be able to recover the immortal essence continent faster." When a disciple in the allied army heard Fan Jiquan's shameless words, he immediately shouted angrily, "Fan Jichuan, you are shameless. The immortal essence continent belongs to us humans. How can the Yen clan recover it? Also, as a human, you actually surrendered to the Yen clan for the sake of your life. You are not fit to be a human." Fan Jichuan immediately changed his face. A wise man submits to circumstances. Moreover, in the past, this immortal Yuan continent was indeed a place where humans, demons, and Yen clan coexisted. I say, what's wrong with the Yen clan taking back the lost land? I advise you to surrender as well, or you will die. That person was almost angered to death by Fan Jiquan's shameless face. He didn't expect that the son of the dignified Fan clan's patriarch would be so shameless. The young lord of the Nightmare clan was clearly very satisfied with Fan Jiquan's tactfulness. He smiled and said, Lord Fan is right. A wise man submits to circumstances. Once the Nightmare clan reclaims the immortal Yuan continent, the Fan clan will receive the same treatment as the aristocrats of our Nightmare clan. As for the rest of you, will you surrender or die? Only a very small number of people in the Allied army revealed the intention of surrendering to the Nightmare clan. Most of them would rather die than surrender to the Nightmare clan. This was the moral integrity of the human race. Death wasn't scary, but losing one's backbone was even more terrifying. Fan Mingchuan was still hesitating. He did not want to die, but he also did not want to bear the blame. The patience of the Nightmare race's young master was clearly exhausted. He sneered, those who surrender, stand to the left. The rest will be killed without mercy. Fan Jichuan immediately ran to the left and stood there. A few scattered people stood behind him. Fan Mingchuan gritted his teeth and still stood to the left. Nothing was more important than his life. Moreover, the Nightmare race clearly had the upper hand. They would definitely obtain the final victory. A certain Jiao, who was squatting in the dark, put away the recording stone in satisfaction. It was a pity that she did not have a shadow stone. Otherwise, the recording would have been even more interesting. However, there were so many witnesses at the scene, so there was no need to be afraid of the Fan father and son denying it. When he thought of the expression of that old thing, the head of the Fan clan, he felt a sense of anticipation. When the young master of the Yen clan saw that there were only a few people who had surrendered, a ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. All right, since you all do not know the situation, then I will send you on your way. Do it, kill them. Right at this moment, someone said coldly, Io, on your way? The ones who should be on their way should be your Nightmare race, right? In the middle of the night, your Nightmare race didn't sleep and came here to throw their lives away. Is there something wrong with your head? The young master of the Nightmare race was shocked. He was too confident. He felt that the humans were extremely stupid. They wouldn't have guessed that the Nightmare race would use the yellow mud mound as a breakthrough point, so he didn't guard against the other people around him. Moreover, he had thought that even if there were other people lying in ambush, they would have rushed out immediately. Who would have thought that a certain Jiao would still have the time to record the evidence at this time? You? Who are you people? The young master of the Nightmare clan noticed that the people who had come were all dressed differently. They did not seem to be from the Allied army. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips and made a hand gesture. The Loose Cultivator Alliance behind this fellow shouted in unison, the Loose Cultivator Alliance specializes in ruling the Nightmare race. Little Ninth Alliance Master, you are invincible in the world. After the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance's earth-shattering slogan was shouted out, the entire place fell into a strange silence. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao, oh my god, this Lung Xiaojia's skin has reached a certain level. Is she invincible in the world? She's really shameless. Alliance Army, oh my god, this batch of reinforcements doesn't seem to be reliable no matter how I look at it. Can they really repel the Nightmare clan? Father and son of the Fan family, why are there reinforcements? If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have surrendered. However, this so-called alliance leader of the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance seemed so random. He was definitely not a match for the Nightmare race. Young master of the Nightmare race, where did this madman come from? Was he playing with the Nightmare race? In the midst of the silence, a certain Jiao smugly pointed at the young master of the Nightmare race. How is it? I'm just asking you, are you afraid? The young master of the Nightmare clan, could you please be more serious? This was a battlefield between the Nightmare Clan and the human race, not a fight between two children. Were they afraid? Hey, Shinjio continued, there are two paths. Either you get lost or you die. You choose. And Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao immediately found the words familiar, as if they had heard it somewhere before. Before they could think about it carefully, they heard the young master of the Nightmare Clan laughing arrogantly. Is there no one else in your human race? You actually sent a girl at the 6th level of the Lingxin realm to lead the army in battle? An alliance of itinerant cultivators? Aren't itinerant cultivators just a bunch of mobs? And you still want to fight against our nightmare race? You're really wishful thinking. The young master of the nightmare race had originally been a little worried when he saw that reinforcements had arrived, but now that he saw them, his heart immediately calmed down. These people were simply unable to withstand a single blow. Yun Chujio hugged her shoulders and glanced at him, saying faintly, "Tinghe, I feel that you're quite pitiful. Don't you feel that being a member of the Yen clan is like having 8 lifetimes of bad luck?" The face of the young master of the Yen clan instantly darkened. Our Yen clan is 100 times nobler than your human clan. We will only be proud of being a member of the Yen clan. TSK, your mouth is quite tough. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll explain it to you. Other races might have beautiful and ugly faces, but at least they're lively. What about your nightmare race? All of you look like vixens. Aren't you tired of looking at them? Regardless of gender, age, you're throwing flirtatious glances everywhere. You simply have no sense of shame. Also, why did you release your nightmare aura whenever you had nothing to do? TSK, we humans only release our aura when we fart. From the looks of it, your nightmare race farts whenever you have nothing to do. It's really uncivilized. Also, those nightmare beasts were even more miserable. They would eat your stinky farts whenever they had nothing to do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to live on. Emma, just thinking about it makes me feel miserable, doesn't it? After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she started to giggle happily. The people from the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance behind her immediately supported her and laughed loudly. The allied forces that were trapped also started to laugh loudly. They felt that regardless of how this Freelance Martial Artist Alliance's leader's spiritual power was, his mouth was really vicious. It was very satisfying. The young master of the nightmare race was so angry that his face flushed red. The people of the nightmare race behind him were also unable to contain their anger. Those nightmare beasts were howling in rage. Damn it, they had clearly absorbed the nightmare chi, but how did it turn into a fart in the mouth of this stinky girl? It was too angry. In order to create a good impression in front of the Yen clan, Fan Jichuan said angrily, "Stinky girl, you are just spouting nonsense. The Yen clan is a noble clan, how can you slander them?" Yun Chujio clicked her tongue in wonder. A few days ago, the head of the Fan clan was still bragging in front of Alliance Master Yen about how your Fan clan had bravely killed the enemy, but who would have thought that his son and grandson would actually become the slaves of the Yen clan now? It's really a slap to the face. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.